Hello everybody, Cliff Higgins again. I have got a story for you. This one is a doozy. I'll get to it in just a minute. I did want to take just a few minutes to address what we refer to, or who we refer to, as the newbies in the YTPC, the new kids on the block. We've all been there. People who are just now finding out about the YTPC or just getting started in the pipe smoking lifestyle. I wanted to address something. This is Pipe Week, and you're going to see a lot of people showing some very nice pipes and a lot of accessories and whatnot. I don't want anybody to be intimidated by that or think that you have to have a certain amount of pipes, a certain type of pipe, or use certain types of tobacco to be involved in this community. There are two requirements to be a part of the YTPC. You don't have to go through an initiation process. You're not going to pay dues. You won't get a membership card in the mail. You just have to be here. But there are two attributes to the people who are in the YTPC. Number one, you have to have an interest in a tobacco pipe, and number two, be a decent human being. That's all that's required. If you possess those two qualities, welcome home. You're going to find a lot of people just like you here. What I'm smoking today is a Missouri Meerschaum Ozark Mountain Hardwoods pipe with some Sir Walter Raleigh aromatic pipe tobacco. I'm lighting it with a Bic lighter, and I'm using a check tool as a tamper. Every bit of this total cost me less than $20. I just want people to understand, you don't have to have a 7-day rotation of Dunhill pipes, which were made during the year of your birth, nor do you have to have an ST DuPont lighter and a solid gold tamper and a cellar full of vintage McClellan tobacco to be a part of the YTPC. If you like smoking a pipe and you're a decent human being, you have found the place for you. Now, another thing that I want to get to is my Pipe Ninja tip of the day. Talking about these check tools. This thing only costs $2 or $3. But there is a part of this thing, the little pick or probe, if you look at that. When these things are stamped and put together in the factory, quality control is not a major issue there. And they get these things out the door as quickly as possible. What you'll find, if you'll open that thing up, one of these three components, it's got a little scoop to scoop out the tobacco after you're finished with your pipe. It has that little pipe pick or probe in the center there, and then the tamper. But the first thing you should do is check this right here, the tip of that, because what I found is most of these, when you get them new, the very end of that has some small little burrs and rough edges where that metal was stamped out. They don't polish that off where it's a nice rounded, smooth as glass end on that pick. The reason for the pick is, well, there are a couple things you can do with it, but one thing is if you're smoking a tobacco that's fairly damp, and as you're tamping, you get about a third of the way down the bowl and you notice your airflow is restricted and you've compressed that tobacco a little too tightly. You can take that little pick and you can go down in there and find that draft hole at the bottom of that bowl and open up a little airway so that you can get more airflow and continue to smoke the pipe and not have to dump out the whole bowl. I've done that a few times. But you don't want to go down into that bowl, especially a really nice briar pipe that's got a good carbon cake buildup, and job around in there trying to find that draft hole with a probe that is sharp and jagged on the end, because what you'll do is you will gouge and scratch the bottom of the bowl and scratch away the protective carbon coating that you've created over the first few bowls that you smoke. And those scratched and gouged areas are the beginning point for a burnout area. If you're smoking the pipe and it gets a little hot, that ash will go into that crack, crevice, gouged area and it can create a potential burnout spot. So if you have a Dremel tool, you can very easily use some of the attachments with your Dremel to polish and round off that end, or you can use a knife sharpening stone or different grits of sandpaper. Just check that. And if you look at it under a magnifying glass, most of these, when they're new, you're going to see some little burrs and rough edges. Smooth that pick on that check tool so you don't scratch up the inside of the bowl of your pipe. Now, on with my story. Something that happened yesterday. Yesterday was Father's Day, and I had a great one. As Mike from Briar Blues makes sure that everybody knows, I have a lot of kids. I got to see and talk to several of them yesterday. My youngest, a little girl, her name is Elena. She is 8 years old. And yesterday on Father's Day, we went to church, as we always do on Sundays. And Elena has a little friend named Etta at church, and every Sunday morning, either Etta will come over and sit on the pew with my family, or Elena will go back and sit on the pew with Etta's family. And Etta's father and myself make sure that these girls don't get too rambunctious and too talkative and cause any commotion. And one way that we do that is we have a small little bag that we have Elena carry some coloring books and things like that to keep her occupied during the sermon, especially if the preacher gets boring. Every now and then I'd like to take one of those coloring books out myself, but also the church service is just before lunchtime. We're sitting through a 1 hour church service before lunch, so we will have a little snack in there for Elena, like a little package of fruit snacks or some small crackers, something like that, just in case her little tummy starts to rumble before church is over. Yesterday after church, my kids and my wife said, you get to pick where we're going to eat. Since it's Father's Day, you decide where we eat lunch. So I said, well, let's go down to the steak restaurant. We went down to this restaurant that I like, and it was packed. There were people outside the door, down the sidewalk. I said, no way. I'm not waiting that long. Let's just go to our favorite Mexican restaurant. Mudge will like this story. No, I didn't have tacos. I had a burrito loco. So we walk into the Mexican restaurant. They're fairly busy, but we're seated pretty much immediately. We sit down with my family. It came time to order. Elena said, I'm not hungry. And I said, you're not hungry? She said, no, I had a snack during church. I didn't know that she had had her little snack because she was sitting back on the pew with Etta's family. So my wife asked her, she said, Elena, what kind of snack did you have? She said, I had a sandwich. I looked at her mother and I looked at Elena and I said, a sandwich? She said, yes, sir. I said, what kind of sandwich? She said, a turkey and cheese on white. I said, you mean to tell me that you whipped out a sandwich in the middle of the church service and ate it right out there in the sanctuary? She said, yes, sir. Her mother said, Elena, when did you fix this sandwich? She said, well, I woke up this morning, I was a little bit hungry, so I thought I'd be hungry during church, so she said, I fixed the sandwich and stuffed it in my busy bag. I was just thinking, man, that sounds just like something Curmudgeon Piper would have done when he was that age. Good Lord have mercy. Kids, man, I tell you, they do the darndest things. Look, I got to get in here and fix some teeth. Y'all have a good day and a happy Pipe Week.